Welcome to another episode of WDW After Dark, your weekly webcast and podcast for adult Disney fans. We are here talking around the round table, Disney, Marvel, and Star Wars, and typically every single week we bring you all kinds of our thoughts as in regards to what's going on at the Disney parks, and of course Marvel and Star Wars happenings. This week we have a little bit more of a serious note as we discuss security at the Disney parks and Disney properties. We're going to talk about that. Jeff Davis, Kristen Hetzel, and myself. We're also going to have a very special guest, and Mike Imke from Weeby Geeks podcast also joining us momentarily. But in the meantime, what we'd like for you to do is check out WDWAfterdark.com. And there you can check out all of our fine sponsors. You know, we have movies coming out every single week, and there you can go ahead and support this podcast, this webcast, by clicking our Fandango link. You know, you've got the BFG coming out, which is another great reunion of Steven Spielberg and the Walt Disney Pictures. You can check that out. You've got the Jungle Book already in theaters, Captain America, Civil War, Alice in Wonderland, and of course, Finding Dory. It's going to be hitting theaters next week. Should be a lot of fun. And all of those great Disney movies you can go check out time and time again. But when you do, instead of just going straight to the movie theater, go ahead and get your tickets through our Fandango link. And there you can even set it up so that you can win rewards every single time you go. No matter what Cinemaplex you go to, no matter what theater you go to, earn those rewards and get yourself some free movie passes when you shop through Fandango. And there, once again, Fandango link at www.afterdark.com. You can also shop using Amazon. We would appreciate it. Amazon, a day one sponsor for this show. And when you do, go ahead and use the search window there at www.afterdark.com and search for everything you could possibly need. Chris and I are shopping for printers right now. That would be a really cool place for you to get the stuff you need every single day, whether it's housewares, whether it's stuff for your kitchen, whether it's stuff for your office or computer room, what have you. Go ahead and shop using Amazon. Get all the friendly prices, nice low prices and friendly service you would with Amazon every single day. But Amazon, when you use that link at www.afterdark.com, they send us a little bit of a kickback for that as well. And last but not least, you are booking your Disney trip, much like Jeff Davis did. You can go ahead and book your trip with Kristen of magicaljourneysvacations.com. And there she's going to try to save you as much money as possible. Now you're going to spend the money at the Disney park or the Universal Orlando parks or what have you. You want to make sure that you get the best type of service, the concierge service that you would expect. And you, believe it or not, you're not going to get it from the bigger companies. You're going to get it from this young lady here. She's going to hook you up with all the great information and the deals that you qualify for when you book your vacation with Kristen at magicaljourneysvacations.com, the preferred travel partner. That's you for www.afterdark.com. Now, before we get,
you can even have your own file with your name on it.
Hey, there you go. There you go. Hey, Jeff Davis.
Just like that. Just like that one. You could tell what I was working on earlier today, right?
Yeah.
Since it's sitting right on my desk.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Before we get started into the program, I would like to observe a moment of silence for the victims of the Orlando shootings that recently happened. So let's go ahead and do that right now. We'll be right back with WDW After Dark.
WDW After Dark, now loading. WDW After Dark. WDW After Dark. Live and uncensored. Starring Jeff Davis, Al John Go, Kristen Hetzel, and Eric Allen. WDW After Dark is live and uncensored. Call the hotline at 410-98-WDW-AD. Follow us on Facebook at WDW After Dark Webcast and Twitter at WDW After Dark. Headline news, Disney food, video games, Marvel and Star Wars. WDW After Dark. Live and uncensored. And now prepare yourself
Welcome back to the program. This is a great episode. I'm glad you tuned in. A little bit on the serious tip this week, and I hope that everyone is recovering. Everyone is, trying to get back to a time of normalcy. Jeff Davis, the News Monsters, joined us this week. Jeff, thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks, Al John. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great to see you. Monsters U present. Also, Miss Dining at Disney.com as well. Kristen is joining us. Hello.
Hello.
That is awesome. Thank you for being here. Once again, we're all lifelong Disney fans. We like to talk about Disney, Marvel, and Star Wars, and theme parks especially. And we will start off on a little bit more of a somber note. We had a very tragic turn of events. Actually, it really, for me, it really started when we heard that Christina Grimmie from The Voice, doing a show in Orlando, was shot during a fan interaction before her show. Jeff, what did you hear about this, or when did you hear about this?
I actually heard about this, I think on Sunday is when I caught word of it.
It's really, really a sad state of affairs. Christina Grimmie, of course, most notably known for her stint on the NBC Universal show, The Voice.
Right.
And she was actually shot at gunpoint there at a local club, getting ready to prepare for her show. And I know that it hit us pretty hard because, we're pretty, we keep up to date with Christina. We watch The Voice quite regularly. Jeff, I know that you've mentioned you've seen The Voice at some point. And
a little bit, yeah.
She was such a great, talented person. I know that Kristen and I had voted for her, watching The Voice every week.
She's was one of my favorites of all the seasons. I mean, she was just amazing.
Unfortunately, she was shot at the venue where she was getting ready to perform. Last actually interactions with people were actually urging people to come out to the show. But she has now posthumously have made it back onto the social media chart, as well as the iTunes chart as well. It's just really, really just a shock. And if that wasn't enough, we also were, had news of a shooting that had gone down over in Orlando as well. June 13th, was it actually Sunday? This happened Saturday.
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 Sunday morning.
Okay. Yeah. So
No,
early.
Or wait.
No, Friday night, Saturday morning. Because
Okay.
Because it was about at the same time that I posted the news about Christina that it occurred.
Okay. Yeah.
So I have this article from the Orlando Sentinel, and it says officials say that it was the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history. Of course, that was echoed by comments from President Barack Obama. By sunrise, at least 50 people were dead and 53 more were hurt at an Orlando nightclub. A DJ hid behind his booth. Loved ones got separated from each other as they sprinted away from the club, so their shoes fell off. And of course, there was a lot of people suffering from gunshot wounds, of course, fatally injured people as well. A lot of ambulances in there. The gunfire erupted at 2 a.m. at the Pulse Club, which lasted for a duration of one song. So several minutes, a witness said. The gunman who was killed in a shootout with police at 5 a.m. was identified by the FBI as Omar Mateen of St. Lucie County. The agency interviewed Mateen, 29, that's his age, 3 times in 2013 and 2014 for expressing ties to terrorist organizations and contacting a suicide bomber, but they had determined he wasn't a threat. Quote, this is probably the most difficult day in the history of Orlando, said Mayor Buddy Dyer. That was a quote that he made on Sunday. Officials worked to identify the dead, but by early Monday, they had only released 26 names, with the victims ranging in the age from 20 to 50. And they warned that the process would take some time.
It has changed from 19 was the youngest victim. I actually have.
You have the latest?
There is a very nice list that CNN put up.
Okay.
It's it has names of all of the victims, their picture, as well as information about them. It's really hard to look at. And it tells you about each of these people. So they're not just a name. They're people. One of them, where is it at? Gerald Arthur Wright. He worked for Disney. One of his coworkers said that he loved guests and he was always smiling. He was just 31. There's one where Brenda Lee Marquez McCool says she had 11 kids, beat cancer twice, and often went dancing at Pulse with her gay son. He survived the shooting. She was 49. But if you want to see a list, and many of them have pictures, not all of them, but you can go to CNN and there's a whole list of those 50 victims.
Yeah. It is a very big tragedy. And once again, I cannot echo this enough. And I know that Eric would be here if he could, but we all here on the podcast, definitely our thoughts and our hearts go out to those victims and their families at this time. It's always very tragic, especially when it hits so close to home. And it just really, there's really no words to describe it. All we can hope for is that, we just keep their memories alive in our thoughts and our words. Jeff?
You try to you try to put into words when a situation like this comes up, which is such a tragedy and senseless for these people who were just out to have a good time. That's all they were doing. They were just out to have a good time. And for so many of them, extremely young. I think one of the youngest was, 18 years old?
I believe so.
One of them was actually from Nashville. I remember seeing it on the news recently. It was just one of the suburbs of Nashville was down there. I believe they had just graduated or recently.
Yeah.
So they were down there to, celebrate.
It's to just go to an area that is so well known for happiness and fantastic times and memories and so much more of what the entire Orlando area is known for. We're not just talking theme parks. We're talking just people with homes, people who just go there for vacationing, just to stay in a vacation home for a couple of weeks and, sit by the pool or drive to Daytona, go to the beach, so many other different things. It's to have something like this tragedy associated with such a happy place. It's very hard to put into words what that does to a person, to people, and also what it does to an entire nation. It's very hard to put into words. So it's I try to think about what those families are thinking, what they're feeling, how mad and upset some people are just because of so many different reasons. I try to put myself in their shoes, and there's just no way to be able to translate that hurt and everything that they're feeling. So it's tough.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to mention, because they often, these are the people that often get forgotten about when it comes to a tragedy, and it's those first responders. Because can you imagine being in that room after that occurred and all of those cell phones going off because people want to know that their son, their daughter, their spouse, whatever it may be, who went there that night, to know if they were okay. And they've got to hear those phones go off constantly, knowing they can't tell that person, I am so sorry.
No, they can't. They can't just pick up the phone.
It's a difficult job to be a first responder.
Yeah,
it is so
it is.
emotionally draining,
It is.
and those people often are forgotten when it comes to a tragedy, that they're experiencing this too, and they've got to go home at night and try and put it behind them, which they can't do. I mean, often many of these people, when they retire, go through years of counseling because it is so intense and so emotional to do that. But
I had a friend tell me about one of his best friends that was a first responder at Sandy Hook, and said that he had a hard, very, very difficult time, still is going through counseling because of being a first responder. This is where it gets really real, folks. And, when we're talking about these issues, of course, the top of everyone's mind, especially people who are attending the theme park capital of the world and the attraction capital of the world, the issue of safety does get brought up. Our special guest tonight is Mike from We Be Geeks podcast. Hello, Mike. How are you?
Doing pretty good. How are you guys?
Good. I'm glad you're joining me. I'm glad you sent out that text. I was actually thinking about, having you on. Didn't know if we were going to have a show for tonight. We're really dealing with a lot of heavy things that had gone on. You, of course, are in the thick of it yourself, being a cast member that you talk about on the show, and Mighty Marvel Geeks as well.
Yeah.
Mike, your thoughts on the event before we talk about any other?
Well, unfortunately, as most of you guys know, I mean, Saturday morning, we had the thing with the Pulse. Now, Kristen briefly mentioned, the singer Christina
Grimmie?
Yeah, who was shot and killed Friday night. It was Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
So hours later, now this was going into Sunday morning. But then earlier in the day on Friday, we had another hostage crisis that was pretty much local news. A couple kids were involved, and it's like, okay. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happened in a 3-day period here that was devastating. I was not at work on Sunday, but from what I've heard, everyone went through metal detectors on Sunday. Yesterday, today, the metal detectors, the amount of randomness was more frequent. So it wasn't like maybe 1 out of 20, 1 out of 25. They were pulling a lot more people through the metal detectors. There's been talk of why not do like Universal. Universal, before you hit City Walk, you've gone through a security screening.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't Disney do it as well? I know in the past it was mentioned, well, because this kind of slow down the people getting into the park and having fun. Well, it doesn't seem to slow people down at Universal. So at this point in time, probably need to do it. Yesterday, going into work at Epcot, walked in, no problems. Walked out, no problems. Today, security was at the cast entrance.
Yeah.
Now, I'm speaking for Epcot. I don't know about the other parks, but I'm going to assume the other parks are the same way.
Yeah.
So, and of course, the metal detectors went in with Disney after the San Bernardino scenario. So,
yes, and also, they went in for a brief period after 9/11 as well. And
I don't ever remember seeing him after 9/11.
I believe that's initially where they had the.
Well, I know the bag checks
and bag checks
started right after 9/11. I don't ever remember seeing.
Yeah, apparently, because when metal detectors were brought back, and Jeff, you may be able to remember this from your DW60 news, but I do believe that initially they not only did they have bag check initially after 9/11, but they also had metal detectors for a brief amount of time as well.
They did, yeah, just a short amount of time, with all the chaos that was going on during that time. You know, the park shut down temporarily. And so many other different things.
We were shut down about half a day. Yeah. They shut the parks down a half day because I remember going in the next day because I was on my days off, and it was just so eerie. It looked like hurricane conditions, like, oh, there's a hurricane coming, but there was no hurricane.
Yeah,
and the cast members outnumbered the guests, and it was an eerie feeling. I can say, too, now I don't know if y'all touched on this, Disney Springs apparently might have been a potential target as well, because he was floating around Disney Springs for several hours before going to the Pulse.
Yeah, well, we did not talk about that. But once again, if you're tuning in to our live blab, this is WDW After Dark, and our panel here is joined by Mike Emke, who is a cast member. Can I say that?
Yeah.
I'll let it out. And also host of the Mighty Mortal Geeks podcast and Weeby Geeks and Weeby Geeks Network of podcasts, which we're proud part of.
Most importantly, forget the Disney cast member. I'm a resident of Central Florida.
That's right.
I mean, I'm in the area affected by Ground Zero with this whole thing. So,
yeah. So,
Aljon,
yeah, go ahead.
Let me just kind of lay the base here, for what we're talking about in a way. It was yesterday afternoon. Today's Tuesday. If you're listening to this later on in the week, today's Tuesday. Yesterday on Monday, People.com threw up an article about this individual who caused this tragedy, and mentioned the fact that not only was this nightclub a target, but also the Disney Springs area of Walt Disney World was a target as well. And as investigation continued, the FBI, they start finding cell phones, they start finding computers and all this other different stuff. They get a cell phone, they start pinging the number to find out different locations that he had been at. Take this all the way back a couple more months to the month of April. And this individual was at the Walt Disney World Resort there in the parks. I'm not going to be specific as to which park he was at. I don't know that. But they do know that he was in the parks. And he was with another individual as well.
Speculation I heard was Magic Kingdom and Epcot.
Yeah, that's the general area that I've been hearing too. Yeah. Now take it, fast forward it to literally just a few days ago. This individual was there in Disney Springs, pretty much scouting the area, doing surveillance and looking at it to see, what type of an area it was. Right. And then was also going to this nightclub as well. So for some reason, whatever reason it was, he chose the location that he chose. But ultimately,
I don't think he ever left the car at Disney Springs. He was just driving around that area. So that could include the Crossroads area across the street as well. I mean, it's all a high tourist area. If he had a explosive device, yeah, I mean, where is he going to make the most? Forgive the pun because it's not intended, but where is he going to make the most impact?
Well, I think it's important to note that, and for once again, for those just joining us, and if you're listening, we definitely are talking about safety. All the other things aside, that's kind of where we definitely want to kind of focus on, and that. But I will say this, because I know that we're thinking it, other people are thinking it. because of the motives of this individual, he could have easily have targeted, the Gay Day celebration that was going on just a week prior, because of his motivations.
And who's to say he didn't realize what weekend it was?
Sure.
So
very
I mean,
been,
because with Gay Days, I mean, it's not just Disney; it's also Universal. It's also, on all the clubs downtown, gay or straight. I mean, parties left and right. I can say they did announce today, Disney Springs is you're going to find a more secure situation when you go in. I mean, there's going to be security checkpoints now going in.
For one, am glad that, and you led off with this, Mike, that everyone is going through the metal detector. Everyone is having thorough bag searches.
The bag searchers hadn't changed. I don't know. Like I said, what we were hearing yesterday was not everyone's going through the metal detectors yesterday or today. But it's a lot more frequent.
It needs to be everybody.
It needs to be everybody.
It is, because
if Universal could do it.
I've criticized the way that they're selecting people in the past, and I'll say I was just there 2 weeks ago. I was there with Natalie from Meet the Magic and her son, and anybody who's ever seen me in the park knows that I am always wearing a fitted tank top and short shorts. I'm hot. I don't like to be hot. I'm just naturally a hot person, so the less I have to have on, the better. I am always stopped. There was a girl who came in behind me, and she was stopped. And I wish I had taken a picture of her, because it was the most ridiculous thing I had seen. She had on, they were cotton shorts, and they were looked more like undies that you get at Aerie. They were more like boy shorts. They were so short the bottom of her butt was hanging out. Her tank top was so tight that you could see the outline of her bra through it. Yet she got stopped. And I'm like, there's no place that girl can hide anything other than inside her body that you can't see by looking at her. If she had a penny in her shirt, you would have seen it in her shorts. Next to her was a man, 6 foot something, wearing a baggy sweatshirt. Again, it's hot. Why he was wearing a sweatshirt, I don't know. And super baggy shorts with a lot of pockets. The cargo pants where, the guy's got like 6 different pockets that he could put, pockets big enough, because again, big guy, he could put a gun in a pocket. Easy. And nobody would have noticed it. He doesn't get stopped. And I'm like, why pick that girl when you should have picked that man? Because he can get in with stuff. She clearly doesn't have anything on her. I mean, what are you going to do if she sets off the detector? You can see there's nothing on her body. Are you going to ask her to take her clothes off? Are you going to go, hey, can we check some body cavities? That kind of stuff is where it gets stupid with Disney. Use common sense. Don't stop her. Stop the guy behind her who could have gone in with explosives and guns and knives, and not one person would have been the wiser, because his clothes were baggy and he had plenty of pockets to put it in. Disney needs to use logic. They need to be trained how to handle the situation. If that means Disney has to pay a lot of money and get the government to come in and help them, then that's what they need to do. Or use to every single person, no matter what they're wearing, what they look like, color of hair, color of shirt, height, whatever it may be. Whatever your supposed random selection point is, everybody goes through. That doesn't exist anymore.
Well, when we went to Animal Kingdom in January, when my family was down, we went through the bag check. Melissa got selected. Melissa, my wife, she got selected for the metal detector. Instead of allowing her to hand off Zoe, my daughter, to me or to any one of my other family relatives, they made my daughter go with her.
Really?
Now, Zoe didn't have to
That's
go through the detector.
interesting.
Zoe didn't have to go through the detector. Melissa did. But they made Zoe go with her over to the detectors. It's like, but I'm right here. Why can't you just hand her? Because she's starting. They go, no, you got to stay with her. I'm like, well, okay.
That makes
Well,
no sense at all.
In
No.
this
And
day
they're
and
not
age,
consistent with it either. Because I can
There is
tell
no
you, I was
consistency.
there. I was there with a 10-year-old. So I mean, Colin was with us, and sometimes I got stopped. Sometimes both myself and Natalie got stopped. But it wasn't that way. Like sometimes he walked in with me, but I would get selected and she wouldn't. And they didn't have a problem with him walking over and following her. So that's, I don't know. That's part of the issue is consistency. It
Right.
should always be
It just
consistent.
it just bugged me that they weren't allowing her to stay with me,
Yeah. There's no reason for that.
or my parents, or my brother. They made her go with my wife, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, if for some reason my wife's triggering something and goes away, I'm following. I'm sorry, because I'm collecting my daughter.
Yeah.
Now, if not, a friend of ours is an attorney, and I would have been calling an attorney.
Jeff, you were gonna say something?
it's obvious that the selection process that Disney currently uses in order to bring people through these metal detectors is flawed. In a situation like that, having done security myself while I was in the Navy, I've stood behind those fences. I've been there for checkpoints. I've had to check for certain things. I've had to look for certain things. In this day and age, just because there's a child involved does not mean that that child does not go through a metal detector just because mom or dad or grandma and grandpa is standing there. And so if they are to say, yeah, she's with her, she needs to come through as well, ultimately, it does sound in a way, kind of wrong. Just give her to me. I mean, she's just a child, but we have seen in this world so many times children used as weapons.
Oh,
And I
kids
have
get
no-
used all the time in theft
Yeah.
rings.
And I would have had no
It's
problem if they sent her through,
unfortunate.
but they didn't.
Yeah.
They went over, made my wife go through, and they told my daughter stay right here next to the machine.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to do that, and you're not going to target my daughter as well, then let her stay with the rest of the family.
I think consistency is going to be really, really key. And in this day and age, instead of random selection, let's just put everyone through for the peace of mind and security. Consistency with security, consistency with training, trained by the best professionals in the business. Disney is the premier brand. They need to have the best people go out there and train and be consistent with the training and have the best security screening available for everyone's peace of mind. Does that mean that any public place isn't susceptible to these type of things, these tragedies that do happen? Look, we're all human beings. It is a public place. Things do happen, but let's do our very best to control what we can, which is minimizing the risk, being as vigilant as we can, investing in training and the whole structure in which we are allowing our guests to pass through those gates to make sure and to try to their best to ensure the safety of all that walk through those gates.
I wouldn't be surprised if you see, definitely by this coming weekend, hopefully we see more metal detectors and we see everyone going through.
I have a question.
At this stage in the game, it's got to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Mike, when I was there a couple weeks ago, if you if you're facing the park entrance, if you're walking up, they were trying to direct as many people as they could to head to the left, where every single person went through the metal detectors. have they installed more on the right side? And I know that Epcot was the only one that had one entrance where every single person went through the metal detector. And they said it was supposed to come to all the parks.
Magic Kingdom has metal detectors as well.
For everybody to go through?
Not for everybody. It's still, the last I knew, going into Sunday, everything was random. It was still a random process.
Yeah, when I was there, they were making everybody going in through the left entrance of Epcot, where they have, usually either like 2 or 3 people working security. All those people went through metal detectors. The other entrance was not that way. It was random selection over there. But they had said, like, they had planned over the next couple of weeks to roll it out, and their plan was to have. Of course, this is before all this happened. Like I said, this is, a little over 2 weeks ago that I was there, that all 4 parks, everyone would eventually go through metal detectors. I just kind of would have thought it would have got rolled out a little bit quicker.
I think a lot of it was, of course, working with Orange County, with a lot of the trainings, getting all the security personnel who would get, the main entrance shifts trained and cycled through all the training for it, not knowing how long the training process is.
Yeah,
that's been established by Disney and Orange County. I would think at this point in time it's probably going to be expedited, and like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw everyone going through it with additional metal detectors in place, or even wands, by this weekend, if they can't get the others in place.
Disney CEO Bob Iger also had released a statement. Kristen, do you have that statement available?
I do have the statement.
Go ahead.
It says, "We are all heartbroken by the tragic and horrific events in Orlando, and offer our thoughts, prayers, and support to everyone in our community affected by this senseless act."
Bob Iger. So I know that safety is going to be paramount. Let's just hope that those things get addressed soon. I'm curious what our chat room has to say in regards to these events, especially as it pertains to security. Jeff alluded to security at Disney Springs. Go ahead, Kristen.
I think one thing that needs to happen, and I don't care if they're in plain clothes, I think Disney needs to do what the professional sports do. If I go and I see a Nashville Predators hockey game at Bridgestone Arena, there are cops that are being paid by the Nashville Predators organization in Bridgestone Arena to keep all of us safe. I think it might be time for Disney to do the same. If they have to be in plain clothes and walk around, that's fine with me. But my thing is, if somebody wants to commit a crime, they will find a way. If there is a will, there is a way.
And that team's already established on Disney property.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably.
I knew there was plain clothes security, but as far as them being armed, which could be hidden. I mean, all you got to do is put it under a pant leg, So
I will say, one time back when Property Control, which is the cast member discount area, was over by Magic Kingdom. I ran into a guy as I was coming out loading stuff into my car. He was loading stuff into his car, and the trunk of his car was an armory. And I'm like, you allowed to have that here? He goes, yeah, I'm part of a anti-terrorist task force.
Your detail.
Okay.
Yeah. They're there. You don't see them. They're plain clothes. They're there.
That's good to know, Mike.
They're roaming property. Because I mean, we have been a target since the whole Y2K scenario. Now, Disney has always, I mean, 9/11, the set of planes that they pulled terrorists off of after grounding everyone, their target was here. Because the theory of the day was go after the financial, go after the government, and go after the biggest entertainment icon. Well, on the East Coast, nothing's bigger than Disney. So,
True.
The only thing I don't know, I mean, I know Universal probably ramped up their security, and of course, they've already got the metal detectors. I don't know about SeaWorld. I don't know what they have. Legoland, Busch Gardens, I don't know what they have. I wouldn't be surprised if we all go
Now,
by the end of the month, or by the end of July even.
I've been to Legoland once, and when I was there, they did not have any kind of metal detectors, and they seemed pretty lenient with their security checks. And I don't know if it's because it's not as close to the theme park mecca that is Orlando, where you have Universal and Disney
Right.
World so close, and it being kind of out of the way, if that's maybe why, and it's more of a little kids theme park, that they think it's less of a target.
Yeah, well, being right there in Winter Haven, you're still drawing in tourist money because.
Yeah.
And of course, you're still drawing Tampa and Central Florida. And Tampa is still considered part of Central Florida, even though there is almost a divide there around the Lakeland area. It's I know sporting events going on this weekend. Their security has been heightened for that. There's a lot of different things. I think a lot of plans have been expedited because of this. And to say, well, it's just Orlando. Well, what about the reports about Amarillo, Texas today? So, I mean, it's not just here. I mean, it's getting worse.
It could be any major city.
Yeah.
Think about the NBA playoffs, I mean, there was, there's heightened security at a lot of different places. Wherever large people, groups of people convene, you're going to find heightened security.
I mean, when there was when Paris happened,
mm-hmm.
Shortly after, they talked about, the group Anonymous said, there's 3 more potential targets. One was Atlanta for the wrestling pay-per-view. That was the American target. A friend of mine happened to be with the band, with Five Finger Death Punch, when their concert was supposedly targeted. And listen to him, he's going, yeah, we picked up some protection on the way to the show. We're not going down without a fight. And I'm like, cool, whatever. And then there was a third time. I don't remember what. Hopefully nothing happened that night. That night to anything. The U.S. I don't know if you covered it, Al John, over on Pro Wrestling Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
WWE still took the threat serious and beefed up security.
Yes.
Even though the government said, we still don't have enough to base on it, and the WWE said, well, no, we still want the security because it's our people.
Right.
It's our fans.
That's right.
Give us the protection. I think, especially, I almost hate to say it, unfortunately.
Well,
I think cast member wise, our bag checks going into the parks is probably going to drop off probably by the end of the week, because it's just the way it happens. And it's speculation. I'd be surprised if it lasts into next week and beyond. I would like to see it, only because you don't know who could fake an ID and still get in.
I'm surprised they don't do. I believe it's Dillard's that does this. Some of the department stores, one of their requirements to keep theft down from its employees is clear bags.
Mm-hmm.
And that way it makes it easier when doing bag checks because you can see what's in there. I'm surprised as large and as many employees that Walt Disney World has that they don't require that of you need a clear bag. And it's easy to get, clear purses, clear backpacks, whatever it may be for employees coming in, just to make that process smoother and it, just overall better safety strategy.
Well, as long as the cast members comply, just like guests do when you come into the park, of if they tell you, hey, we're going to do a bag check, fine, put the bag down, open up the different pouches, and don't be afraid to hide it. Don't hide anything. If you're going to hide something, then when I got stopped today because of what I do with the parks, they questioned my knife and my multi-tool that I had. I'm like, this tool's my trade. They questioned the chef next to me who had his chef's kit. It's like, it's tools that we gotta have to do our job.
Yeah.
So so they gotta learn what the different departments do. But if we're walking in with a gun,
that's needing. They need to be educated on some, like, this particular position requires this. Chefs often carry their own knives because they're used to them. They fit their hand properly. They work better with them. And that way they know, okay, this is the tool of this trade. This is not some kind of suspicious thing.
Right.
Like, this is not somebody who is working Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, bringing a set of knives into the park. That
have
is
no reason for
training, training opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah. As this goes on, we will definitely be following this story. Jeff, do you have anything you needed to add or perhaps comment on? Because I'm sure there's a lot to talk about. We're trying to keep things.
Yeah, there's plenty more that I have to say. I'll do it on this Thursday show.
Okay, all right. Well, hey, you don't want to say it here.
At least we don't have enough time.
Give us a taste of it.
Okay, well, to see metal detectors, all over the entrances of all the parks, would be an absolute shock to me that Disney would actually do that. Because I don't believe that Disney wants the entrances to their parks to look like the TSA line at Orlando International Airport and so many other airports around the country because of all the problems that they've had. And that would happen. Unfortunately, I'm the type of person that would be willing to wait in that line just to keep myself, the people I care for, my friends, and everybody else safe. So whether it takes you 5 minutes to get through security or whether it takes you 45 minutes, people are safe. But I don't think that Disney is going to do that.
No, I'll disagree with you. I think it's going to happen. It's already happening.
I would love to see it happen, but I'm going to be really surprised if I do. I'm going to be really surprised.
I just don't think you're going to get the TSA scenario, though. And I apologize for interrupting.
Yeah, because they keep it kind of separate from the line to get in. You're kind of walked over to the
as a frequent traveler myself. I'm sure Disney would do a better job than TSA.
I would hope so. Yeah, I would hope so that it would not look like something like that. But when you have a situation like that, when you're trying to keep contraband and weapons out of an area that is so full of people on a daily basis, and to be thorough in these searches, it takes time, which means people pile up.
Well, okay, so since you haven't seen these firsthand yet, Jeff, the way it works is you go through regular security and get your bag checked.
Oh yeah, I've seen them. Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen.
Yeah.
The
all
process
you do is
when
you walk up, you hand them your bag. They take your bag. You walk through the detector. You don't beep whatever. They hand it to you, and it's a very quick process. I don't see it being anything like TSA the way it's current, at least the current setup. And when I've gone through it, it's easy breezy. My only issue has been the lack of common sense for selection.
Yeah, I agree with you. The lack of common sense is 100%. It needs to be everybody. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a man, if you're a woman, what ethnicity you are. It doesn't matter what you are. Every person needs to be checked, no matter what. But I look at all this money that Disney has spent over the last few years, and these attacks are nothing new in this country. These attacks are nothing new in this world. They've been going on for quite a few years now.
15.
And with all this money Disney has been spending, we want to redo Town Disney. When we turn it to Disney Springs and make it look this certain way in all these shops and everything. We want to add all this stuff to the parks and everything else. Sure, they want their guests to be safe when they're in the parks and on their attractions and everything else. But where has the money gone in order to keep them safe before they get into the park? That's, I guess, where focus I haven't seen. It's probably been done in other areas where I don't see it, but I haven't seen it myself.
That
kind of worries
well
me.
Be the case, Mike was saying earlier, that there may have been investments made on a place where you do not see them, and that may be a good thing to a certain degree. It just knowing what Mike has said in regards to the plainclothes security and trained professionals that are there, I feel a little bit better about it, because we don't talk about security all that often. So I know these are just questions that everyone thinks of.
Right.
Yeah, it makes me feel better, but look at the Disney Springs area. How many entrances do we have into that place? There's a lot. There's a lot of entrances.
My understanding is there's a bunch of other technology in place at the gates of Disney parks that people are not aware of, in order to make sure that, and I'll put it to you like this, and maybe Mike and I had this conversation, but basically the same type of security that can be found in a Las Vegas hotel. Do you know what I mean by that?
Oh, yeah.
There's cameras there.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
There's cameras there.
But, I mean, at the same time, though,
gates, yeah.
Don't pick your nose if somebody can see you do that.
Those who are looking to do harm to people, those who are looking to do these types of things and do this type of tragedy that this nation had to go through, I would prefer to see it in place myself, because that is going to deter a situation like this happening, whether it be at a Disney park or downtown Disney or, any of the Disney locations anywhere around the world.
Well, I think
I would rather see it specifically,
Mm-hmm. I think
in my opinion.
I think after Sunday or Sunday morning, Disney realized just how soft of a target Disney Springs is. I think that's why they've ramped up security at Disney Springs, or they have in the last few days. I can safely tell you, vehicle-wise, there's no one getting a truck bomb into the parks. Not from a backstage entrance. I can safely tell you that. Because they just won't make it past the security gate. I mean, if they're running and barreling cars through to try and get in, they're not getting through. Now, if they happen to sneak something in, shame on security for not doing enough check.
I will say one thing that I did notice with the opening of Town Center is seeing police actually in uniforms. I did notice that.
That's something else I noticed around the area, was seeing actual, Orlando police,
and
Osceola.
the sheriff's department.
It's actually Orange County. Yeah. Orange County Sheriff.
Or is it Orange County?
Yeah,
okay.
Orange
County. Seeing them around was totally better. Yeah. And you've got all of these different ways to get to downtown Disney. Get to downtown Disney via a boat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A couple different.
Get there via a bus.
Right.
There's a lot of different ways.
And we have a few comments in the chat. Of course, Nicole said when she worked at the airport, she was required to have clear bags, and continues saying visible security is going to be different, or visible security is going to be a deterrent. And DVC 5571 mentions, for me, I don't care how long it takes for searches, safety for me and others. I can simply say this. At what point playing the advocate here, at what point will we say visual deterrence like uniform security deter from the show and getting away from the reality and stepping into your vacation fantasy? To what point is it acceptable? Does it go against what normally what the visions and maybe what Walt Disney had envisioned about getting away from reality?
That's the interesting part, Aljon.
Right?
You nailed it right there. And I think that's what Disney could do. I'm not talking barbed wire fence, and military dogs walking around and everything else. I guarantee you, if Disney to put the money into it, they have their ways. We know how it is with Disney hiding things to where we can't see them, and it making the biggest difference in the world.
Right, but I mean, think about the amount of uniform security that you have seen in the parks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been like that for years.
Now, over in California, they frequently have even the drug dogs that are in the park with them. The German Shepherds to sniff out whether it be drugs or anything like that. Over in Disney California Adventure, you will almost always, every trip you make in that park, see that guy at least once roaming through the park.
We have that here as well. Both explosive and drugs.
I've seen it once, and it was in Epcot.
I see him. I see him daily at Epcot when I'm working in Canada. I see him at least once a day.
I wouldn't mind if they had to bring in and have somebody from the sheriff's department with an automated weapon at the front, standing right behind. All he needs to do, stand there behind security checkpoint, like the bag area, because that, to me, is enough of a deterrent. Go to Mexico and their cops are always standing around with those big assault rifles.
But Disney,
it's enough
Disney
in one place. I'm not going to say put them anywhere else, but to have one guy that stands there just enough that as people go to enter the park to think, do I attempt something?
Yeah, but the Orange County sheriffs that are there, they're armed. And, I mean, they have their hand pistol. They have however many tasers on them.
But that doesn't always scare people. That isn't always enough of a deterrent. An assault rifle.
But at the same time, you can't have somebody there with an M16 standing at the entrance.
I don't have a problem with that.
Well,
I don't either.
But I don't think that's going. I don't think that's going to deter your internationals, though, because they see it. I mean, that's common practice over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want us to step on each other in this comment, but yes, I mean, what your threshold is of acceptability is not necessarily, obviously, the threshold for everyone else's. And once again, where do you draw the line? Where you may not mind having an armed rifleman right there. I think also another visual deterrent that we've seen at the parks before is having Orange County out there with their police cars parked toward the front and not close to the gate, but just right as people are walking in, seeing a couple of officers right there at the gate, making sure that no shenanigans happen, because it's just subtle enough for you at the side of your vision, your peripheral, to go, okay, I see it, and if there are any shenanigans to be had, these guys are going to have me in a sling and hauled off to Disney jail or the Orange County jail because I didn't even walk into the park yet. You know what I mean? So there is a lot of varied opinions throughout the Disney community, as you can see here on the show, a section of reality. This is a bunch of 4 different people's thoughts, and we all have varied opinions on this subject. It's going to be very difficult for them to find out what the balance is. What is a balance? What is good for their consumers and their guests? What is safe for them?
I would be interested to see when it comes to because of course I wanted to at one point work for the FBI. So that's where, I have a history in criminal justice. So I have a little bit different understanding of deterrence and all that kind of stuff. And being that Jeff is a military man, I would be curious to what he thinks of what I had said. Would that be too much for you?
To have somebody standing there in uniform with holding an M16, no, I don't have a problem with that, because I don't want to bring too much of my personal views in that fashion into all of this. I really don't want to.
It's because he's waiting for his show on Sorcerer Radio to discuss.
No, that's not true. I'm not even going to do it on that one. I'm not even going to do it on that one.
Waiting for the big ratings to come in on Thursday's WDW.
No, he wants to keep that only personal.
No,
he's keeping personal from
I
professional.
Oh, yeah.
You can always come on Weeby Geeks. I'll let you open up there.
Open up there.
Here's the thing. I want Disney to. I don't want them to turn into Fort Knox. Okay. What I want them to do is make sure little Jimmy is safe, little Sally is safe, mom and dad is safe, that couple who is spending their honeymoon at Walt Disney World safe, Disneyland safe, any of the Disney parks. I want them all to be safe, no matter of religion, ethnicity, choices in life, no matter what it is. I want them to be safe. I also want Disney to do it tastefully. And that's why, Aljon, I agreed with what you said. You give Disney Imagineers a metal detector and you say to them, make this fit like it's part of the park. Mm-hmm. And that's what Disney is going to do. Now, is that going to happen overnight? No, that's not going to happen overnight. What do I want to see? I want to see a metal detector by every single Magic Band scanner until they figure out a way to incorporate them to look like it's Disney. Because I know Disney does not want to have everything looking so cluttered and just, you're entering the most magical place on earth. We don't want it to look like a security checkpoint on a military base over in Iraq or Afghanistan or something. They don't want that. I know they want it to do it, but I think they're looking for the right way to do it.
It's a balance.
It is a balance. I want to see that statement from Bob Iger, as great as it is. I want Bob Iger to focus and let everybody know, hey, we understand the problem, we see the problem, and we are currently working on the problem. I want words from Bob Iger himself that this is being done.
I think
now I know that's a lot to ask.
Well, it may not be, Jeff. And I don't mean to cut you off, but it may not be. And I understand people needing that reassurance from Disney's CEO. But once again, it is a balance. And how much of that can you address without also painting more of a picture or more of a target on your properties, where he's playing it cool and maybe working behind the scenes, or definitely working behind the scenes with the infrastructure of being subtle. There may be a situation where, maybe if he ventures out and decides to confront that issue head on, that he paints more of a target on the property inadvertently. So maybe it's a situation where that may be the best thing that they can possibly do, is address it and really put the focus on a time of healing for the victims, whereas maybe behind the scenes working to really beef up security for the best of their guests. And that's the hardest thing, I think, that in a person in his position do, whether it's Disney or Universal, whatever the case is, to really just bring that balance together. Mike, you're also a very popular guy tonight, I see. Yeah. So, but no, I understand, Jeff. That well put.
Yeah. As far as I know, I haven't heard anything about them doing any theming or anything like that. But again, the metal detectors are new. As of whenever San Bernardino occurred. I mean, it was like shortly after that. It's when they went in place. Of course, it's only been 2 days from the shootings. Like I said, I'm speculating there's gonna be some expediting of adding more and getting them in place, especially if they did run everyone through them Sunday. If they possibly ran everyone through them yesterday, Who knows at this point in time? Now, what type of theming are you going to do with them at the front of the park? I don't know. But remember, too, when you're coming into the park and you haven't gone through the ticket, the Magic Band scanners or your RFID scanners for your tickets, you're still in reality. The show doesn't start until you break that plane. Then the show begins once you are admitted into the park. That's where the show begins.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in order to do that, at that specific point is where those metal detectors have to go in.
And that's where they're at. They're going to be before you get to the tickets. Because you're not getting. I'm
hoping it's better looking. More. I don't want to say visually appealing when it comes to a metal detector and what the purpose of them are, but
the easiest place for that to be more appealing would be Epcot, because then you can make them look like whatever.
God, but just run everybody through Star Tours security, because we know they carry everything. That'd
be fantastic.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
We once again, go ahead, Mike.
Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, you could make them look like tree. We were walking through the roots of trees.
Sure.
Magic Kingdom Studios.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
There's no doubt.
Magic Kingdom, mini castles.
Well, look. There's no doubt that Imagineers can disguise it. I think it'll be. We'll be following this closely because something needs to happen now, and so. I know that Disney will do their very best. Once again, as a premium brand, as a brand that takes safety, as job one should rightfully so do that. I'm sure that Bob Iger and his team at Disney Parks will do their very best. Before we shutter things down for tonight, Jeff, you had something you needed to say in closing remarks?
One more thing. To those of you who is going to be that person who is going to whine and groan and get upset because you're waiting in line to go through a security scanner or a metal detector or everything else, and you're blasting it all over social media and Disney's doing this wrong. And remember what the purpose of all this is for you to have a fun, safe, and magical vacation while visiting Walt Disney World or Disney Parks anywhere. Because all of you know, you're going to have haters out there who are going to absolutely hate this. It's not going to be many, but you're going to have them. And they will jump on community sites and they will raise up a storm of hate at the fact that they have to wait in line for 45 minutes just to get into the park. So to those individuals, please just remember all of the stuff that's set in place right now and what may come later on, it's for a specific reason. So please just remember that. So that's all I'm going to say.
Just be smart.
Yeah. I understand you're frustrated. It's hot. It's like 100 degrees. You're just melting out there in the Orlando sun. Yeah, so is everybody else. They're doing it too. They're dealing with it. Cast members are dealing with it too. They're out there too. Everybody's dealing with the same amount of heat. You're waiting in line your entire vacation. You've still got to wait in line for Peter Pan. You've still got to wait in line for Everest. You've still got to wait in line for, I can't use Star Tours. That's inside. But still, you're waiting in line. It's just one more line. It's not that big of a deal. So don't make a big deal out of it, please.
All right.
And be courteous to the cast members when you go through. Don't gripe and moan at them. It's not their fault. They're just trying to keep you safe. Don't gripe at the cast members. Don't do it.
On that note,
Be nice.
once again, thank you. Once again, you can follow Jeff at DW_60. Jeff, where else can people find you?
Oh, you already mentioned the Twitter. So
I figured you hit up your YouTube or something.
what he said. And social media wise, also on Twitter at Jeff Davis _75. The Sorcerer Radio Disney Fun Zone over on Facebook. If you're not a member, it's free. Go and join all the fun in the Fun Zone. And then DW 60 Thursday mornings, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, sounds.com.
I cannot wait to listen to Thursday's show. Great.
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 pages I typed up.
Have mercy.
Yeah.
Yes, it's true. And also, Mike, our very special guest from Weeby Geeks and Mighty Marvel Geeks and all kinds of assorted geek and sundry. Where can people find you and all your great podcasts?
Well, find me. Twitter is probably the best place to find me. At Weeby Geeks, Marvel Geeks, Weeby Geeks PC on Facebook, Mighty Marvel Geeks on Facebook. I have that Instagram thing, but hardly ever use it. So
I don't either. Yeah.
It's there because I'm protecting the name. Find the shows on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Satchel Player, Google Play. Yeah, anywhere. If you have a podcatcher, look for us. If we're not there, shoot me an email, Mike at weebygeeks.net, and I'll make sure I get on that podcatcher.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike, can I ask you one question?
Oh,
yeah.
What has the how has the reaction been on the whole Hail Hydra thing that we spoke about a couple of weeks ago? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, geez.
Oh, that.
Give me one word.
Radical.
Okay. All right. Interesting. All
Yeah,
right.
I mean, you would have thought that the guy who did the shooting Sunday might have read Captain America, Steve Rogers #1, and that's what might have set him off. Who knows?
Well, just so you know, Jeff is referring to Captain America's turn as an agent for Hydra several weeks ago on Marvel Comics, which I know is going to be retconned. So,
well, issue 2 comes out in about 2 weeks. I think it comes out June 29th.
Oh my goodness.
And it's gonna give you the answers to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
not that I do know. Answers are coming in issue 2.
All right. So be sure to check out the podcast there at Mighty Marvel Geeks. Of course, WDW After Dark, part of the Weeby Geeks podcast network. And we do appreciate it. Thank you, Mike, for being here.
No problem.
Giving us your insight. Kristen, a lot of stuff going on in the Disney food world, as it were. Diningatdisney.com. Where can people find you? And what do you have going on with your podcast?
Well, you can find me and my writers at diningatdisney.com. It's Dining at Disney on everything social media except for YouTube. It's the Dining at Disney. And we have a very special guest that is going to be on our next episode because we're recording this week. And it's going to be Pam Brandon, which you may know her. She is the writer for Disney Parks Blog. She talks about everything that has to do with food as well as the cookbooks. She's one of the authors along with the Disney chefs. So Bubba and I are going to be doing a show this week, and she's going to be our very special guest. So we are very much looking forward to this. We're going to talk about Shanghai and the dining. So
yeah, briefly on Shanghai, just remember on the 18th, Disney Channel is going to be doing the opening ceremony stuff.
That's going to be awesome. You're going to hear all the
16th or the 18th. Either 16th or the 18th.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. But
it's repeating, I believe, that Saturday. But yeah, everything's the 16th.
That's super exciting, and we're going to have the audio on Sorcerer Radio for sure. That's going to be great. We've already done a lot of that. Kristen and I have actually. Thank you, Kristen, for that information. Boy, it's a race to the top here in terms of applause. That's really nice. No, but we've recently on WDW Teak Room, the sister podcast to this on Sorcerer Radio, and Weeby Geeks have posted a lot of audio from Shanghai, as well as so much more in the red carpet. In fact, this coming Friday, we're going to be on the blue carpet bringing you the great interviews from the cast of Finding Dory as it hits theaters this Friday. So be sure to check that out this Friday's edition of WDW Tiki Room on Sorcerer Radio. And afterwards, it'll be on iTunes as well on Weeby Geeks. We've got a lot of stuff going on, and we would appreciate you following us once again. Kristen, myself on WDW Tiki Room. Follow me at JediMouseketeer.com as well. All my social media links are there. And of course, social media for this program, WDW After Dark on Twitter, WDW After Dark webcast on Facebook. And be sure to like and subscribe to our show on YouTube and iTunes and TuneIn and everywhere else your podcasts can be heard. Thanks to Mike. We appreciate that as well. So we're going to wrap up this show. Once again, follow all of our great sponsors. Be sure to check them out as well at www.afterdark.com. Refresh your podcatcher, by the way. If you didn't catch some of our other shows that we have, our whole archive there is available at www.afterdark.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget, it's better after dark, and we'll see you next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye. And look at that.
Oh,